See, I told you I'm not really good with technology. Anyway, good morning, everybody. It is Friday, February 3rd in 2023, and this is Real Estate Talk TGIF, episode 243. We are brought to you by the Modern Agent team and Real Estate Skill Builder, and we have done 240 episodes in a row with 3 extra episodes, and we have one of my new heroes, Sadie Callegari, on with us today, who is the I have the wrong banner up. Sorry about that. Hold on. Let me get the right banner up. There we go. Director of Coaching and Training at the #1 real estate team in Michigan. How about that? That's really cool, right? How's that?
So exciting.
That's awesome. So we're going to go to a quick video to start, and we're going to be right back and get right into Sadie's story. As soon as I can find it, and we will go. Here we go. Real estate agents, are you looking to acquire clients consistently to grow your business and income for a great lifestyle? Well, this is Dave Finale, and I'm here to bring you the Real Estate Skill Builder broadcast, Real Estate Talk TGIF, brought to you by Real Estate Skill Builder and the Modern Agent team. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, sometimes my technology, I know how to use all this stuff. There's so many buttons on this system that I mess it all up sometimes. But that's okay. That's me, right? It's okay to make a mess. Just as long as you, you clean it up to progress. So, Sadie, thanks so much for coming on. I said you are the Director of Coaching and Training at the #1 real estate team in Michigan, the Perna team. You and I recently met as we did a course together, and we were in an accountability group, which was really, really cool. It was like we had to perform for each other. I don't mean perform in front of each other. We had to get our work done. We had to go and do all our commitments, which is probably the #1 problem that most real estate agents have, is actually doing the work, right? They're all worried about how many deals they're going to do. How about doing the work? But anyway, let's talk about you. But before we start, I do have one question I ask everybody that starts this broadcast, and it is, what does TGIF stand for?
Well, I want to say thank God it's Friday, but I feel like that's wrong.
Yeah. I'll give you one more choice.
Oh my God, Dave, I don't know. What does it mean? Tell me.
Well, it's really simple. It's thank God it's finale. That's all there is to it. So that's how let's see how it worked. I didn't plan it that way. It just worked out that way. Anyway, so Sadie, thank you so much. Welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you.
You didn't start as the Director of Coaching and Training for the Perna team. You didn't start there. Talk to me about your journey and how you got there, because so many times people say, well, how can I relate to Sadie, because she's up here now, and how can she's never going to want to talk to me. But that we know is a lot of crap now. That was the old models, not anymore. So talk to me about what you've been up to, how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely, Dave. Some of it's a little bit surreal that people say that or think that still to this day. Like, I just feel like one of the agents out there working hard and trying to make things happen in the market. But so my story actually started, I lived in Chicago. I was in graduate school in Chicago, and when I graduated, looking for something different, something to do. I sort of was thinking about real estate. I liked houses. I liked people, felt like a really good match. I actually called a friend of mine who was in banking, and I said, hey, Taylor, I'm thinking about real estate and getting into that. Who do you know who I could talk to about it? She was thinking, gave me a couple suggestions, and hung up the phone. And the moment she hung up the phone, then like 3 minutes later, she got a phone call from Dave Nimick, who I worked with in Chicago, who said, hey, Taylor, I'm looking for somebody to join my team. So it was kind of serendipity, and it kind of made sense. So I met with Dave. He was wonderful. And he and I worked on a small team in Chicago for a few years. And so I was a buyer specialist there. I worked exclusively with buyers. Dave took all the listings. I did all the buyers, and we had an admin who was a transaction coordinator. And I just learned a lot. I dove in, I learned a lot. Dave and I would sit together every day. And so that was a really important part of my sort of career and life and learning. It was also really hard sometimes because we didn't have a big team. And while I always knew he was there if I needed him and he would take things over if I had to, it was really me working all of the buyers. And so it was a little bit of 24/7 on call all the time. And while I loved it, it was was kind of challenging. So I met my husband actually in Chicago on St. Patrick's Day at a bar, the old fashioned way. And he's from Michigan. So we started talking and thinking. And after about 3 or 4 years, then I decided to move to Michigan. So when I decided to move here, I really was thinking about independent versus teams. I'd had a lot of success in Chicago. And so I was wanting something a little bit different, a little bit more work-life balance, a little bit less 24/7 on call. And so I met with a few different teams. I actually interviewed with a lot of the top teams here in Michigan, and Mike Perna was one of them. And then I really considered going independent. And it was an interesting moment in my career where I think some of us have these moments where we've had some success and independent feels like a great option. And then why would we go back to a team? Why would we go back to a team with the splits and all of the things that are involved there? And ultimately for me, everybody's decision is different. But for me, at the end of the day, the team was important for a few reasons. The biggest one is leverage. So we get a huge amount of leverage from the team. So our team is about 120 agents right now. And so we have a group me that's really big and really vibrant, and people can get showing assistance and they can get help and things like that. Not only that, but we have the transaction coordinators and all of those people available. So when I was making that decision, the team just made sense. I'm just a team person. I believe that if you can get a group of amazing people together, we can go further. And so I started with Mike Perna. I was really attracted to sort of the model and the opportunity, and he needed a listing specialist. So I sort of buckled down and I learned listings. It took me 3 or 4 months, and I got going and had a ton of success on the team with listings. And then our team started to sort of evolve and grow. And as we started to grow, we made a decision about, it must be like 2.5, 3 years ago now, to really grow. And sort of put the gas on that fire. Mike said, "Hey, I need a coach and a trainer." And so I took over that role, and we've gone from about 15, 20 agents when I first started on the team. Now we have about 120, and we're growing rapidly. And it's been a really, really, really cool, really fun ride.
So how do you go from 15 to 20 to 120, Sadie? I mean, that's the last thing you said, but I need to ask that question. And how do you keep track of everything?
Yeah. Well, the keeping track of it, I don't know that anybody has totally figured out, but we've got some pretty good systems. The key to growth, Dave, is just giving everybody an opportunity. And I believe in this to my core. Now, it took me a minute. I was the queen of one-on-ones. Like when we first started growing, I remember a moment where Mike said to me, like, how do we get you from bringing on 5 agents a month to 10? Like, if we give you 10, can you handle it? Right. Which now seems kind of crazy. We're bringing on like around 20 a month, and we have the systems in place. But that was a big deal because I had everybody sitting in my office all the time doing one-on-ones. And so we moved to sort of a more group coaching model. Now we have a bit of a hybrid. We still do some one-on-one, and we're moving back towards some of that. But we do a lot of stuff in group, and it really makes a lot of sense. It gives people camaraderie. It gives people somebody to work with and to be sort of alongside them in their same journey. And what we realized is that we're just not picky in who we choose. So when we're recruiting and bringing agents on, we do very little vetting. We do some, right? But very little. What we know is our picker is really wrong and really broken. Like Austin, my director of sales, and I say it all the time, like we're pretty good at picking people and we're wrong all the time. And so what we do is we just give everybody an opportunity, knowing that we're going to have a bunch of fallout, and we see who shows up and who's willing to do the work and who's great. And when you give a bunch of people opportunity and a system to plug into, then it's really easy to get that growth going.
So would you say that the most important thing that you have in your company, in your team, is the systems and processes that you set up for people to succeed?
Yeah, it's certainly one of them. I would actually say that the most important thing that we have, Dave, is our culture.
Okay.
And you have coached with John in the past. So we coached with John Cheplack, and he taught us this, is that, and we have an amazing, like our culture is kick-ass. Our people are just incredible. Like we're so lucky all the time to have the group that we have. We talk about it a lot. And what we know is that we only get to that culture when you give enough people an opportunity that the people who need to rise sort of rise, right? So when you only have like 5 or 10 people, it's really hard. One toxic person is really hard, right? Because they can bring the whole thing down. When you've got 100 people, like it just naturally, the toxic people just weed out. They don't want to be there. They don't want to be around all the other people who are doing really positive, amazing, cool things. So I actually think the culture is our superpower, although the systems that we give them in order to succeed are really important as well.
Yeah, because if they're following the systems, let's face it, and they're doing the work. If you're not going to do the work, that's where the whining is going to come in.
Yep.
You know, I've seen that so much. I mean, it was the reason that I stopped being a broker owner was because I couldn't handle the way I was doing it. I was doing it incorrectly, right? And a lot of times when you have people that are happy working with you because they're producing, they're also the ones that are more apt to listen and more apt to follow directions and instructions. So when you bring on a whole bunch of people, 10, 20 people a month, what is the process? What are they learning first? How long does it take them to get to their first transaction?
Yeah, so we actually have a program called Launch. We call it Boot Camp and Launch. It's their first 8 weeks on the team. So boot camp is 2 weeks. And this is one of the things that COVID did for us, actually, and it was really incredible, is we did a lot of one-on-one in person in the office.
Right.
And when COVID hit, Michigan was shut down, like one of the most shut down states in the country. We would get on Zooms with other teams around the country and they'd be like, wait a minute, like you can't even put a sign in a front yard. Like we couldn't even, there was no for sale signs in front yards. We had sellers like on camera FaceTiming their house with buyers because it was the only way for buyers to be able to see the house and the listings. It was crazy. We had to do buyer consultations exclusively on Zoom. We have an agent actually, Joe Chidiak, who like got really good at it. He signed like 24 buyers in 1 month on Zoom during COVID. Wow. It was insane. But we also had to change our coaching, right? That all had to change. And so we moved it to more of an online model. So our boot camp is online. We use Kajabi. There's also Trainual's really good. A lot of people there's a lot of these. So it's video based and they're learning our basic scripts. So they learn how to do calendar. I'm big on calendar. My team calls me the queen of the calendar. I believe it'll change your life. And then they learn our basic scripts and our buyer presentation. There's like 4 key scripts that they learn in there and they have to practice them. So I have them write them and chant them and listen back to them. And they're uploading all of this and then they're doing it from memory. So it's a lot of video, it's self-paced, but they get 2 weeks to do it. And it's 2 weeks of 40 hours worth of work. In that system, they're also learning our follow-up boss, our CRM, and they're learning YLOPO because we use YLOPO for some stuff. So they're learning some of our basic models and systems in there as well. But it's 2 weeks of 40 hours worth of work. It's self-directed. Right now, they used to check in with me. I now have a launch coach. Her name's Wendy Thagard. She's incredible. But they check in with Wendy every day. So there's a lot. It's high touch, but it's self-paced and online. So they check in every day with 2 things. Number 1, their intention for the day. I want them to put it in writing. I want them to declare it out loud, what they're going to get done that day. And then number 2 is what they did yesterday. And so we're constantly looking at those check-ins and seeing, hey, you made a commitment to do 8 hours yesterday and get through this section, and we didn't get there. So what got in the way? What happened? How can we help you? Let's look at your calendar. So that we really are holding their hands, but it's that 2 weeks. When they're done with that, then they go into our launch program, which is a remaining 6 weeks. And every week they're doing a little bit of boot camp modules, right? Which are online video based. They work through some stuff, our open houses, our ISA appointments, those sorts of things,
Sure.
How to do a really great showing, et cetera. But they're also working with Wendy. So they do a role play twice a week to go over their scripts in the morning. In addition, we have a morning Zoom every morning at 9 a.m. for the whole team. So they're on those. She does like a mock showing with them during 1 week. They write mock offers so that they're used to doing that by the time they're with their clients. So they're really working, but starting at the beginning of week 3, they've got leads. So they've got leads, they've got access to them, they're calling them. There's a certain cadence and rhythm that they're doing, and they're working the actual business. So for that 6 weeks, she's really holding their hand, but they're in the business and they're working. And that's really how we get them sort of up and running.
So you said that you have 4 basic scripts. What are those scripts?
Yep. So we have, we call it the moneymaker. We love a good hip hop reference around our team. The moneymaker is our main pond. It's got a lot of our internet leads in it. And so it's got about 110,000 leads in there. What we know is that in the ponds with those leads specifically, we find that LP Mama works best. So we have an LP Mama script that they learn. For incoming Zillow stuff, and we learn ALM, but that's mostly handled by our ISA department. So our agents learn LP Mama. They learn an after the showing script. So what we teach our agents is every time you leave a showing or you leave a meeting with a buyer, you either need one of two things. You either need a buyer agency signed. We sign buyer agency agreements. We believe in it. Or you need their next appointment set up. So you never leave without one of those two things. So they learn that script. They also learn our buyer presentation, which is our 8-point plan to find them homes not even on the market yet. It's unique to our team and it's really amazing. And then they're also learning a little bit, it's called reverse timeline, but we focus on some of the occupancy stuff. We find reverse timeline gives people who've never been in real estate before, which some of our new people haven't. Some have, some haven't. It gives them a sense of how a real estate transaction works. And so we want them to learn it, not only to use it with their clients, but also to really learn, like, how does this process go so that they have a sense of it.
Sounds very, it sounds very simple to get into business with the Perna team. It really does, right? So you also
simple but not easy.
What's that?
Simple but not easy.
Let's talk about the calendar, the queen of calendar I am speaking to, right? So talk to me about your calendar and how important the calendar is.
Oh my gosh, Dave. Like, I say this all the time, but I really, truly, to my core, believe that your calendar will change your life. To my core. Part of this comes from being in a little bit of burnout. When I was in Chicago as the only buyer agent, truth be told, I was in a little bit of a burnout mode, and I knew that things had to change. Not only that, but I moved to Michigan. I was the listing specialist with Mike. And look, opportunity is not something that we're missing on our team. And so I actually remember a moment, I'll never forget it. I walked through the front door. My husband and I were married, but no kids or anything yet. And I was working my butt off, and I walked through the front door and he said, "Hey, I'm just curious, like, do you think you're going to be home for dinner at all this week?" And I was like, oh no, right? I had been on appointments every single night. And that was the moment. It's like, something has to change, right? Something has to give. And so I really buckled down with my calendar, and I made commitments about when I wasn't working, and I really wasn't going to work. And how was I not going to work? I took Sundays off at that moment. I took a couple evenings a week off. I set up my calendar such that I really, really believe that when you're working, you need to work. And when you're not working, you need to not work. Like, put your phone away, be present with your family. What I find we do as agents is, like, we don't have really clear established time blocks in our business. So even when we're with our family and we're convincing ourselves that we're with our family, we've got our phone in our hand, right? We're like looking at the text. We're like stepping away to take a 5-minute call. And what I also know is that when you're sitting at a listing presentation, if you're me, like, I'm there for 2 hours, right? People tease Perna and I that we're always at listing presentations for forever. But I'm going to sit with you at your dining room table. I'm going to sit with you for 2 hours, sometimes longer if I need to. And I'm really going to connect, and I'm going to get to know your family. And I wouldn't dream of picking up my cell phone in that moment and answering a text from a buyer. Right? I wouldn't dream of picking up my cell phone and doing anything in that moment. I'm there with you. So what I know is that there's nothing that can't wait 2 to 3 hours in our business. And so if I'm willing to do that for the sellers that I'm working with, then why am I not willing to do that for my family? Right. So it's finding systems and leverage and tools. I also, at that point, really got into showing assistance. So how do I treat buyers like a seller? Well, I go meet with them. I connect with them. I talk about what's important to their family. And then I don't need to go do all those showings, right? I can still negotiate their offer, but not necessarily have to open the door every time. So stuff like that. And then follow up. Our clients really deserve consistent, regular follow-up from us. And the only way that they get that is by us being intentional about our time blocks. One of the things that I tell our team all the time is that I believe that a recurring event on your calendar is your worst enemy.
Explain that one to me.
So the only event there's 2 events, 3 in my calendar that recur. One is our 9 a.m. Zoom, because my assistant puts that in there. It's just in there for everybody on the team, right? We're always on those meetings. It's consistent every week. I have a leadership meeting that happens at the same day and time every week, and I need it to be in there. Again, my assistant adds it. I work directly with our listing agents. So there's a couple trainings a month that are consistent and they're always in there. So those invites are in there. But when it comes to something that requires my activity, like it requires me to do something to be ready, mostly prospecting, follow-up, that sort of stuff, right?
Right.
What I find is that we put it in our calendar as a recurring event with the greatest of intentions, right? So we intend to be there every day at 8:30 or whatever. But life doesn't work like that. I have a 3-year-old. He has an ear infection right now. We've had a few of them now. Like I had to take him to the doctor the other morning. That was the only appointment that was available. There's no way in hell I'm not taking him to the doctor, right? Even with the best of intentions around follow-up, that needed to happen. When we have a recurring event, what we do is like, it's okay, I'll get to it tomorrow. If instead every week, and I do it on Sunday, every week, if you look at your calendar and go, I know I need to prospect every day. This week, here's where it fits. I'm going to put this here. I'm going to put it here. I'm going to, right? I'm mentally making an intention around being there and showing up and doing that activity in that moment. And I'm putting it in there physically. It's not a set it and forget it, because then we truly just forget it. Recurring events, we forget. But something that I'm making an intention around every week, I'm much more likely to show up and be there. And if I need to move things around, it's very easy to do that and still keep my commitment for the day. It might not be at the exact same time as I intended, but I'm going to keep it because I moved it for this other thing that needed to happen. So I really believe that that's one of the things that can change your life there.
I completely agree with you that the calendar will change your life. And you talk about recurring events, recurring things. I have it in my calendar, and I work with agents all the time, setting up our simple framework, which is role play at a certain time, prospecting at a certain time, and social engagement at a certain time. We do that every week, every day. The way you're setting up your calendar, Sadie, you're just doing it a week in advance rather than recurring, correct?
Correct. And what I find for me on Sundays is like, I know if there's any anomaly, most of the time, anomalies that need to happen, right? Because what I also know is that I personally didn't get into this business to have a 9-to-5. If I wanted a 9-to-5, I would have got a corporate job and done that, right? And maybe had some benefits.
And I think one of the things that's really important as a former broker owner, as a team leader, as a coach as well, the things we have to look at is people did not get in this business to have a 9-to-5, just like you just said. And when you realize that in the position that we're in, we will know that, okay, well, they need flexibility. Agents need to be flexible. I get that 100%. I also know that if they set from the beginning that there's going to be every day they're going to prospect, every day they're going to do this, setting up that calendar is extremely important. For me, my problem, honestly, is that if I have different calendar links and if I leave it open, it's going to be filled up. And I don't want that to happen for me. So I set those up. No one can schedule time in those spots other than me, right? So that's how it works for me. But I mean, I've had other guests on this broadcast talk about calendar. One in particular, Brian Danny, talk about his schedule. And I actually did a screenshot of his schedule when he put it out. And it's very interesting where the calendar in the morning, it's always the same for him. And it's role play, it's prospecting, it's follow-up. And then the afternoon is completely open. And then at night, he has, family time, second workout, et cetera, which is really pretty clear that it works well. How does one who's not used to a schedule, Sadie, actually get into doing that? Is it commitment? Is it something that you're willing to do? You have to be willing to do it, right?
Yeah. You have to have a reason. You have to want to do it. I think there's a fallacy sometimes where people I hear our agents sometimes will come into the business and they think like, oh, I'm getting into real estate because it's super flexible. And the truth is that I just don't think that that's true. You can create your own calendar. You can create your own schedule, but you're a business owner. So you need to have your calendar and your schedule in place. There are people relying on that. And so if you just show up, think about it with anything in life, right, Dave? You know this inherently. If you just show up willy-nilly to things, like that's the results that you get.
Exactly.
And so if that's the results you're okay with, great, do it. But if you want to act like a business owner, be a business owner. Business owners have calendars and they have schedules and they keep them. And so it doesn't mean you can't have flexibility. It doesn't mean you can't take your kid to the doctor if you need to. It doesn't mean you can't have lunch with your friends if you decide to. But it does mean if you committed to prospecting for 3 hours that day, that you're going to make time to prospect for 3 hours that day, right?
Exactly.
So that's the difference.
Exactly. I mean, it's as you said, your calendar will evolve, and it absolutely will. There's no question about it. You know, I've had a lot of people come in over the many years that I've been doing this, saying, "Yeah, well, I heard I can make as much money as I want, and I can work anytime I want." I want to say, I say it now. I did say it before. Is good luck with that.
Yeah, right.
You know, because that's really not going to happen. You're going to be sometimes a slave to what you've got to do. But then again, you're a business owner, as you said, and there are certain times in the day you've got to do certain things. I always go back, Sadie, to what my dad would say. My dad was a dentist, and he would say, "Do you think
Mine too, Dave? I didn't know this. What a weird connection."
My dad was a dentist, right? And how I got into real estate was that he owned a lot of real estate, and it was his hobby, right? Mm-hmm. And as time went on, it was like more of his job than his hobby, and that's where I came in, right? And that's where I got all my experience. But he would always tell me, "Do you think I like to do everything I do every day?" And I said, "No, don't you?" Because no, there are things I just hate to do. He wouldn't tell me what they were, but imagine as a dentist, you know, you see all kinds of things in people's mouths, and that's why I wasn't a dentist, because I didn't want to stick my hand in anybody's mouth.
Right.
And it's simple, right? So, but there's things you're not going to like to do. You're not going to want to do. One of the biggest problems I see, this just came in my head, is with a lot of agents. They get a deal, get a transaction, maybe they get a listing, they get a sale, and they just they put everything aside. They stop prospecting, and then that deal is like the most important thing. Mm-hmm. What is the way to get them off of that? Is it the calendar, and how do you do that?
It's a great question. So we talk about, on our team, we talk about it in terms of the roller coaster. We always say, get off the roller coaster. You're on it right now. You need to get off of it, right? Because you do all this work to get this business. And then once you get it, you quit prospecting, and then your business goes down, and then you got to rebuild. And it's like the rebuild is the worst part, right?
Right.
So once you've built, coast on that build. Don't rebuild once you've got there. You know, one of the things that we coach our agents, and I know not everybody's in the same situation, is we talk a lot about how to leverage. So we have opportunities on the team to leverage around our closing coordinators. So we have amazing closing coordinators. An agent hands in a file. They're responsible for, with a signed purchase agreement, buyer or seller, they're responsible for negotiating the inspection, negotiating the appraisal if they need to, and then showing up at the close and looking good, right? So the closing coordinators handle all of the appraisal, all the paperwork, all the stuff with the bank. I have not looked at a piece of title work for maybe ever, right? Once I can think of in my whole career. I don't talk to the title company. I don't need to do any of that. So they have those tools. But what I find is newer agents go "Oh no, but my clients need me." And it's they don't need you, right? No. You got to leverage your closing coordinator. You need to trust them that this is what they do and they're really good at it, and get out of it. What we know is our agents actually have better success with their files when they stay out of them and do that. They're not writing addendums. They're not, doing those things. Do the things that are really important to you and stay focused on getting business. So that leverage piece is what we talk about with our agents all the time in terms of getting off of that roller coaster.
That's so important. I will tell you that I was guilty of that. I was the owner of the company. So it was my deal. I'll take care of it. Right. Mm-hmm. What good is that? There's a lot of things that we have to do in our positions that should show agents exactly what to do. And that is one of them, to let your team, your people take over for you and go forward with that. You talked about bringing in a lot of people every month, right? And you kind of let them weed themselves out. Mm-hmm. And you say that you don't really vet people that well, or you don't vet people. You just let them come in. So is there a sign that you see of someone that's going to produce, aside from just doing the work? Because anybody can do the work, right? So talk to me about how you separate workers from non-workers.
Well, I think everybody, Dave, can do the work. The question's not can you, it's are you willing to?
Right.
So what we find, look, our boot camp is not easy. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of scripting. People haven't done scripting often in years and years and years and years, right? And so it's not, can you do it? I'll give you all the tools to do it. I've done all the research. I know how to get scripts in your brain, but it's, are you willing to put in the work to do it? And I think people have a realization with us pretty quickly most of the time that like, this is more work than I wanted to do, right? I actually kind of want to be a hobby. So it's really like, are they willing to do the work? And we figure that out pretty quickly. Like people can pop in, and if they're committed and they're willing to do the work, you know, sometimes you want to say like you need to have polish, or you need to be able to connect with people well, or have rapport, or do those things. But I know that I can teach that to people almost all the time. And if I give them enough reps and enough opportunity, like they'll get there and they'll grow and learn. And so there's very few things that I see in people where I go, nope, not going to make it, besides like unwilling to do the work or not truthful about the work that they're doing, right? Like not being true to themselves about like what they're actually doing every day.
Right. So one of the things we talked about the other day, and we had a nice conversation, was different agents need different things, and different agents need different coaching. It's not all about hand holding. Talk to me about your process and how you figure that out and start helping them. Is it that they need to ask, or do you see it? And talk to me about different agents, different coaching.
Yeah, I think the conversation we were having the other day, Dave, was around, so we just implemented some levels in our business, and it's been really cool, and I'm super excited about it. One of the things with the levels is that we realize that different agents at different points in their career need different things. This actually came from Bill Pipes, our coach, your coach, my coach. We coach with him independently, and he sort of started talking to us about this, and we had it in our brain for a while. It took months to put together, but so what we figured out is that launch, those first 8 weeks, they need a lot of attention, right? Because a lot of people just don't know what to do. Or if they've been in the business before, they don't know how our ISA system works. They don't know how our closing coordinator system works. Like they need somebody to help them through all of that, all of the systems and processes and the scripts that we use. So that's really high touch. Wendy's in with them every single day. They're talking to her every day. So there's a lot of sort of hand holding there. At the end of that, people go into a couple of different directions. So some of the people who go through launch, they get it and they're off to the races and they're doing great. And they're sort of in the middle. So we find that we have like this middle group, right? Yep. And they are working their business. And what they need help with is tips and tricks on conversion. So we hired a few months ago, Jeff Lawson. He's amazing. He's our conversion coach. And that's what he's focused on specifically, is conversion for those agents. And so he's working with them in terms of one-on-ones or just daily little check-ins with like, hey, with this client, try this. With this client, try this script instead. Hey, you forgot to run the play in this way with this client, so let's go back and do this, right? It's very tactical, hands-on, like building your pipe, not necessarily even building, like pipeline is sort of being built simultaneously, but like how do you get your conversion? So you have to go on less appointments to make the same amount of money or more, right? So that's what he's focused on. The other two groups are the top. So our top 20 or 20% of the team, what we know is that they know how to do the business. Like at that point, they've usually been with us for a little while. They know what they're doing. They don't want check-ins every day. They don't want high touch. They're sort of on a roll in a groove. What they need is more of a mastermind environment. So we have a Top Gun mastermind that we have every month, and it's in person, and it's the top 20 agents getting together, and it's really just masterminding around, are you seeing this in the market? Are you seeing that? Like, what are the things that are happening? What's working for you in your business? How are you leveraging? At that point, leverage is a really important conversation, right? Yeah. Showing assistance and things like that. So they're having those sorts of conversations, and it's really a group environment, but otherwise we kind of let them go and let them do their thing. What we know with the group who's sort of at the lower percentage, right, in terms of closings, and a lot of these people just came out of launch, is that they're not really ready to just be let out into the team and like, good luck, right? Have fun. Right. So we're giving them actually more opportunity. So what that group of agents needs is really good habits, right, in order to get them going, and they need some one-on-one attention. So we call it our playbook to 8. Our playbook to 8 closings a year. And those numbers will be different for everybody, but our playbook has some different things in it. So it gives them the habits around, hey, you need to have this many connections in Follow Up Boss every month. You need to do an open house every month. You need to show up for these meetings and these trainings and attendance, right? We have a VA pop onto our Zooms and take attendance and see who's there. And they get a scorecard. There's like 8 things on there. They get a scorecard every week from our VAs that just says, here's how you're doing, right? And then the other thing that they do is they get a biweekly one-on-one with some of our top agents on the team. They're called pod leaders. And so they're really working with them. What the agents do is they bring their top 3 leads. So here's my top 3 next pendings who I think are going to do well to that one-on-one. And then the pod leaders go through with them 30 minutes and like, hey, try this with this lead, try that with that lead. If they bring 3 leads that are all 8 months out, like we got to get you some different clients. If they bring 3 leads that are good, but just maybe need a little nudge here or there, they're going to help them with nudging them forward. So what they need is a combination of like some one-on-ones and some attention with their direct business, but also those foundational habits that they can move forward.
Talk to me about, I love all that, you know, how you get people set up, you've got it in tiers to get people from top to bottom to help everybody out. And that's fantastic. That's the ultimate in collaboration within a team. Talk to me about what smaller teams, like you're a team of 120, right?
Yeah.
So your goal is to get, is to grow a bit this year. What do you see how you compare to smaller teams, like teams of 10 and 20? Can they scale the same processes that you do, or should they worry about something else?
I think that they can really scale the same processes. I'm thinking back to when we had 15 agents and how things would have been different there. Now, look, just naturally, when you have 10 or 15 agents, it's going to be a little bit more high touch because you're just involved a little bit more. Although we have a big leadership team, so we're still pretty high touch. As we grew, we also intentionally grew our leadership to make sure that we were taking care of people in the right way. But I think you can still sort of do these same processes. Look, if you have 10 or 15 people, then that means you probably have 2 or 3 that are really great, that are rock stars, that have a pipeline built, that know what they're doing. And regardless of if there's 100 people on the team or there's 10 people on the team, those top agents still need the same thing. Like they might need a mastermind together once a month. They might need a care call from the team leader, right? Hey, how you doing? What do you need for your business? But they don't need every single day somebody watching their business and overseeing everything and checking in with them. Whereas if you have 10 people, you probably have 2 or 3 new ones. And they need a little bit more high touch. They need a little bit more help. They need a little bit more training and coaching. So I think that part of it is scalable. There's just going to be less people to implement those systems. Like you might not have a scorecard and a VA that's doing that scorecard every week. And like we need those systems because we have so many people that we want to make sure we're paying attention to them. So you probably need less of that with a smaller team, but I still think that the theory is there that like different agents at different points in their career need different types of coaching.
So you're a new agent.
Yeah.
Coming into the Perna team, or you're coming into any team or whatever, what's the first thing they need to do, and how quickly should they expect to get a transaction?
Well, our goal, so we have a process called the ISA 555. So we give them 5 ISA appointments, like starting at week 3 and 4. Then we do like a one-on-one. Wendy dives into it with them. Are they running the play? Are they doing all the things they need to? If they are, they get 5 more. If they are, they get 5 more. And so in that process, we hope and we anticipate that they'll get 1 pending out of that. Right. So we want them to come out of launch their first 8 weeks with 1 deal. The reality is not everybody does. Our real metric is like if somebody's at 90 days and doesn't have anything yet, then we got to have a conversation, figure out what's going on, dive into that with them a little bit. Because what we know is like, then at that point, how are you surviving, right? Like, how are you paying your bills? All those sorts of things. We had a point on the team where it was 6 months, truth be told. It was like 6 months before people were getting their first couple of deals. And when they got them, they would pop and they'd have 2 or 3, but that was so hard. It's too long for people to survive. So our goal is really in the first 8 weeks in launch that they're getting a pending, something under escrow. And really, if we're at 90 days and they haven't, then we have to have a conversation around what's going on with them.
So one of my favorite questions to ask someone like you is this, right? An agent comes to you and says, Sadie, I need to get a couple of deals and I need them really quickly. Now, I've been through the 2 weeks. I've been through the 6 or the 8-week launch. I've done all that stuff. I've worked out. I'm just not getting anywhere. What can I do? Where am I going to go? You know, life on the line. How do I get a couple of listings or a couple of deals in the next couple of weeks?
So I would, number 1, dive into that person's pipeline. So I would do like, who are your next 3 people, right? Let's see who they are. If you don't have any, then like, why don't you have any? Do you have any we call leads like A, B, C, or depending on when they're going to transact, right? So do you have any
Right.
B leads that we could move up to A quickly? Like, who are
Right.
you out showing? The second thing that I would go to is friends and family and Sphere. We know that Sphere trusts you quicker. So
Right.
if you're in a desperate situation and you need to get a deal, like how much are you reaching out to those people around you to see who's ready to potentially make a move? I'd first go to their pipeline though. I find it's very rare for agents, if they've made it through our 8 weeks, that they don't have something in there. They just don't realize it at this moment that that's their next deal, right? Or they don't know how to move it forward, or they don't have the right words for it. So I would definitely start there.
So, okay, great. So they're going to go in to see what they have in their pipeline and go forward. And Sphere is very important.
Mm-hmm.
Is the sphere of influence a really big thing at the Perna team to use that a lot?
We do a lot of Sphere business, and we have room for improvement. It's one of the things that we're sort of being intentional about and working on. We have a massive past client database just from the 20 plus years that we've been in business as a team. But cultivating an agent's individual and personal sphere is something that we've been sort of working on plans around and getting better at. We have them doing a lot of videos. We have a cool thing in our new office, actually. So in the entry, when you walk in, there's a few different backgrounds. So there's one that has like a couple of chairs and wallpaper and cute stuff, like a shelf. If you wanted to do a little interview style, there's like a white shiplap wall. There's a faux brick wall. There's a live greenery wall. So agents can choose like whatever background they want and go do their social videos without even having to think about that piece of it. So we're implementing some more stuff, but truth be told, it's a gap that we're currently working on.
So talk to me about social media and what you go, since you brought that up, talking about videos and stuff. What's the most important thing for you guys in your market right now?
In terms of social media?
Yeah.
So Mike actually does, everybody should go check it out. Mike does a ton of videos. He's got a great YouTube channel. And he does a lot of videos around local stuff, like local communities, also market updates, things like that. So again, in the spirit of leverage, we teach our team to do a lot of leveraging that. They send it out to their clients. They'll post it on their social media. They'll share that stuff. So for somebody who's a little nervous about being on camera or knowing what to say, like that's a really good place to start, is to take the content that we've provided and just go share it. We also have had a lot of stuff lately happening with our agents, and we've been coaching to it and having some of our agents coach to it who are doing a great job on talking about their clients and telling a story. People love a story. So they'll post, a lot of people post like just sold, but like who cares about it just sold, right?
Right.
So we have cool signs. We have some that say like #winning, or I just bought a house, that clients can take to the final walkthrough and take a picture with the house, with the sign, with the agent, whatever. And so a lot of our agents are taking those pictures, they're posting them, and then they're telling the client's story. Hey, I had the opportunity to meet Tim and Susie, and they're wonderful. They're first-time home buyers. They're having a baby in June. They needed some more space. They wanted a backyard to entertain, whatever. Mm-hmm. Telling the story around that transaction. And we find that people's friends and family are really connecting with that, and they see that as evidence of a lot of success.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I see is people say, well, story, I told the story. I had a great loan officer. Title person took care of this appraisal. Yeah. No, nobody gives a shit about that. Nobody cares, right? They care about, what was their journey? What did they want to see? And if you show that through either a video or through the captions in your post, there's a lot more people that want to read it. They want to see it, right? And this is probably one of my biggest fights with people I work with is tell the story. No one cares that you sold 3 homes in 3 seconds for $1 million over asking. I mean, it's nice, don't get me wrong, but it's like right now we're in award season here in this area, and we're seeing everybody post their awards and how they're blessed and everything else. Honestly, personally, I really don't care. Right?
Agreed.
What I care about is how did you get there? What was your path? Tell me that story. So, all right. So we talked about how to get a deal really quickly, and we talked about the up and down. One of the things about the roller coaster is I don't mind a roller coaster if it's this way, right? If it goes up, right? And that's what we want. That's what we actually want to see, because if you tell agents that they shouldn't be concentrating on something, they're going to look at you like you got 4 heads and not do it, right? So in your masterminds with your with your top agents,
Mm-hmm.
what are most of the topics that you're working on in those masterminds, aside from leverage, and what else?
A lot of like market conditions. A lot of our top agents are also doing have pretty balanced business. People come into our business mostly working buyers. We know it's the first way to get them and the easiest way to get them a paycheck.
Right.
But sort of working the people at the top of the business have much more balanced or even a little bit seller heavy businesses. And we find that being able to educate the sellers, talk to them about what's going on in the market conditions is important. Because we're such a big team, we have the opportunity to see things way before the market sees them, right? We see the trends like way early. So we want to make sure that we're talking about those trends, that we know them, that we're sort of crowdsourcing, like what's happening with your listings, what's happening with yours. In the last week or so, our market went crazy and multiple offers are back and like lines out the door at open houses. And so we see that pretty early, whereas an individual agent, it may take them a while to see that information. So we want to make sure that we're giving everybody an opportunity to sort of talk about that stuff. But Dave, like there are no magic bullets. We talk a lot about basics, no matter what level of the team you're at, because at the end of the day, if we can simplify and get you to just run the same play all the time, we know it's going to lead to success. So,
and that's why I always come off with agents. I say, I ask agents a simple question: is it a seller's market or is it a buyer's market? And actually, then I say, wait a minute, don't think that question. It's actually a realtor's market, because you make your own market, no matter what it is. Look back, Sadie, at the people that got in this business in between 2008 and 2013. They're the ones that are crushing business today.
Yeah.
They're the ones on teams like you're on that, they saw what happened and they had to get started in a tough economy and a tough business. Agents that get into business over the last 3 years, the joke we made over the past few months was, what's a price reduction?
Right.
And then how they did it. And what I saw, having been in this business several times, I got into business when interest rates were 18 to 20%. So, and people still bought houses. People still sold houses, right? And so I saw all the different things that happened. And what I knew was that if you did your job and did the work and did the things that you were taught, and I tell you what, if you do the work, if you're doing something and you're consistent with it, you're going to do business, right? And just be careful when I talk to agents. Just be careful that if someone gives you a couple of referrals, you're not doing business by referral, because your sphere of influence is the number one thing. And it's always going to be the number one thing. For me, anyway, that's how I work with most of the agents that I work with. I said, this is your number one pillar. And then everything else is after that, right? So, but the thing is that it's a realtor's market. It's your market, whatever you want to do. What do you think about that?
Oh, I 100% agree, Dave. It's just, I also don't think that the work changes that much. And bear with me here, right? It's just, where is it located? Like if people would talk about it, a traditional seller's market, right? Like we've had for the last couple of years.
Right.
Then if you have a buyer, you got to write 5 or 6 offers. And the thing is not getting the buyers to write the offer. It's getting them to keep writing and not get demoralized and keep searching until you can find the right one, right? That's the skill. And that's what takes all the time. If you're sort of switching that and you're in more of a buyer's market, then the skill is keeping your sellers on the market long enough to find the right buyer, right? So it's like the work doesn't necessarily change. And the work at the end of the day is not any of that. The work at the end of the day is finding new clients. That is our job always. Because if we're not doing that, then we don't have a business. So that never changes. And I find the work just shifts. It's not market dependent. It's just, where are you spending your time? You're going to spend your emphasis and your time in different places depending on the market conditions.
Well, that's the whole thing behind the definition of what a real estate agent is just 3 things. It's you prospect for buyers, you prospect for sellers, and you write contracts for the first 2. That's really what your job is, and that's part of it. Now, truth be told, there's a lot of people that do get in this business that don't want to follow up, don't want to prospect. That's a showing agent or whatever they are. It's like my favorite new sayings is, you can't judge a fish by his ability to climb a tree. Right. So, I mean, if that's not what they do, that's not what they do. Anyway, so I think it's really important for, like what you just said, it's where they are maybe in a different place, but if you keep doing the work, you're going to do the business, right? There's a lot of people that get frustrated, or they're not used to doing work. That is a problem too. And I don't think really that the word lazy should ever come into it for the most part. People said, you know, not trying to work leads, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's just maybe the focus isn't proper, the why isn't big enough, or they just haven't practiced enough. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. I also think like it's not just being willing to do the work for a week or 2 weeks, because I see a lot of agents who come in and they're gung ho and they're excited and they've got this new tactic that they're going to try, right? Whatever it is, it might be social media, it might be open houses, it might, you know, whatever it is that they're going to go do. And they just go at it for a week and they go, well, it's not working. And it's like, of course it's not working. Everything's cumulative. So it doesn't matter where you choose to focus and spend your time. What matters is that you're willing to do it week over week over week over week. And when it doesn't feel like you're getting a lot, keep going, because that's the breakthrough moment. It's just, I find some of our agents popcorn. I was talking to our accountability groups about this the other day, but like they popcorn from this to this because they assume it's not working. So they switch tactics right when it's about to work and do something else, and then nothing works, right? And then they're in that moment where they're like, I've done everything you've asked and told me to do, but none of it's working. It's like, well, but have you done it consistently over time and not jumped from this to this to this to this? Because that's where you lose. It's like, pick something and go do it for a month or two and then tell me if it's working or not.
Well, I've always told agents that it's going to take 90 days for you to get your metrics set up, right? Mm-hmm. So you just talked about agents doing something. That's the thing that I learned a long time called the J curve, where they start something new and it's not working and it's actually making it worse. It's not going to make it worse. And then they quit at the bottom of that J before it shoots up, because it's going to shoot up. Look, every little gimmick that people are selling out there, well, most of them do work, right? It's just following the directions, right? So that being said, you've given me a lot of direction today, a lot of ideas, a lot of thoughts and processes. And I think it's really important for people to see that, you know, knowing why you want to do stuff is really important, number one, and actually doing the work that supports that why. So it goes from, you know, committing to what you really want, having the courage to do it, and admitting that, you know what, shit, this is going to take a lot of time. I'm going to put the work in. And then as you start seeing it going, use your confidence that you've built behind it, because you're now clear on what you're supposed to be doing. So that's the way I like to look at it. Sadie, as we finish, this has been excellent. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me, Dave.
You're welcome. Is there anything that you'd like to say to everybody? Now, I do have your information, and I forgot to know, is that correct?
Yep, perfect.
All right, cool. So we also, is there anything that you could say to any agents out there that are struggling, that want to build their business faster?
I would say just what we were just talking about, Dave, is like, keep doing the work consistently, keep showing up. Sometimes we talk about with our agents on our team, they'll go, well, I just got lucky. This buyer fell in my lap and they bought a house the next day. And I actually don't believe in any of that. There is not really luck that comes into play. It's that you were willing to get through the hard moments. You were willing to work through all the tough stuff. You were willing to do the work when it felt like the work was exhausting, right? And then it just so happens that all of these things will fall in your lap one day. And it's hard to know when that day is going to happen. But if you keep doing the work over and over again, then that will happen. The other thing that I would say, Dave, is get in the right room. This is an amazing room. Your show is such a good room, right? And I would be plugging into it every week. I would be getting in a room with people who are 1 or 2 or 3 levels above you if you can, and talking to them. Right. We mastermind all the time. We meet with the top teams in the country intentionally. We have coaches, we have all of that, so that we can be in the right room, so that we can see what they're doing, so we can see what's working for them. And I think it's been one of the keys to our growth and success is doing that. So I would plug in any way possible. It might just be at your market center, might, you know, wherever it is, but be intentional about the people you're around. Put yourself in a room that are people who are a little bit ahead of you, where you're not the best person in the room, and really take those opportunities to learn and grow and keep moving. Like, none of us have it all figured out, and we're never going to. So the collaboration piece of it is really important.
Collaboration piece is the biggest part of it all. It's why I am where I am and why I work with the people that I work with. One of the reasons you and I met, because of the collaborative effect and how we do it all. I just have one other question, one other thing. Again, thanks so much for coming on. I want to just put this up. Is this okay with the contact information? People want to contact you. Okay, on the bottom there, Sadie Callegari at pernateam.com.
Oh, I see it. Yep, that's it. Feel free to email me. We're an open book. I'm more than happy to help people. We want to see everybody succeed. So yeah, happy to help.
So the last question I have for you, Sadie, today is, how can I help you grow your business?
Dave, asking that question is amazing. You're such a contributor. Dave, we worked together, right? Over 3 months of really high accountability, and you showed up so often. And so I can't thank you enough for that. Being so flexible and showing up and being there and being collaborative. The best thing that you can do is just like stay connected and reach out. One of the things that's most fulfilling about being a coach, and one of the things I love about it the most, is seeing other people succeed. So if something resonated with you here today or whatever, please let me know. I love that. And if we can help in any way, I'm happy to. But Dave, you're doing amazing things. So I'm just excited for you and excited for where the show's going. And
thank you so much. Thank you so much. So a quick plug for next week. We have Michael Meyer from Meyer Real Estate on the East Coast coming on with us next week. Sadie's here. And Sadie, I know you found out about this through Jason, that everybody gets a hat on the broadcast. So we're going to be sending this hat out to you.
Thank you.
I want to thank everybody for watching and have watched later on the replay. Thanks so much for that. And other than that, you know what? We are off and we are in great shape. Sadie, just stay on for a minute.
Sure.
I'll see everybody next week, where we got Michael Meyer coming on. See ya, folks.